Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Findaway Productions with your co-host, Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. All right, man, you can go whenever you're ready.
Okay. Coaching 101 podcast is sponsored by Findaway Productions. Findaway Productions also sponsors fbcoachsimpson.com for all your coaching needs, with over 30 coaching materials, books, as well as 50 PowerPoints and videos and smaller materials and the free magazine headsets. Findaway Productions also sponsors offensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things offense, and defensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things defense. Findaway Productions is proud to sponsor Coaching 101 podcast.
Good.
Was I good?
Good
Under
enough.
30?
Yeah, it's about for 33, but it's good.
Yeah, okay. You can cut that last part out if you want to, then the last part about
I'll make it fit.
Okay.
Absolutely. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Speed and Movement. At athleticspeedmovement.com, we've taken Del Basquet's 45 years of speed and movement training and put it all in one place just for you. You can get the same training that NFL players have been getting for years, collegiate players have been getting for years, and now high schools across the nation are paying thousands of dollars to bring Dell in to install his system, but we've got it online for you. It's time to help your team become faster, not just in the 40, not just their sprint speed, but between the tackles and their cuts while they're chasing down the quarterback. It's time for you to help them become faster everywhere. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. There's an orange button there. Just click it. It says, get the keys to playing faster. You'll get the 3 core movement video from Dell. He's explaining the science behind it, all for just the price of your email. Check it out, athleticspeedmovement.com. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain, here with Kenny Simpson today in person. It's a good episode, man. AFCA has been pretty awesome for me. This is not your first, obviously. This is my very first, and so I've learned a ton. Just getting to kind of be around coaches and speak the lingo, and everybody's talking my language, right? Instead of, it's not like talking football with your wife, who's like, although my wife is pretty good at it, and I'm sure some of y'all are too, but it's just a different feel, right? Just kind of being around the guys and talking ball.
connecting with friends. I see these guys once a year, right? And we talk through Zoom or phone or whatever. I think that's as you kind of come to more of these, Daniel, and guys that maybe are watching this. That's what a lot of guys do with AFCA. I think is you connect with guys that hey, let's meet up and hang out a little bit. I'm going to go watch the game. I'm going to make a friendly wager. My friend here, I'm going to go to Michigan, go away from Chris. But anyway, on that note, we probably have to introduce, because they don't know who these guys are.
Let's go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Chris Haddad, the founder of Victory Sports. We're an education website for football coaches, so if you're looking to learn X and O's, drills, everything in between, you can find it on our website, victorysports.com. And then we're here with...
And I'm Danny Haddad. I am also part of Victory Sports, and I'm the OC at Bellingham High School in Massachusetts.
Yeah, and the better-looking half of Victory Sports.
So which one's the oldest?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
5 years.
5 years, yeah.
5 years older.
5 years older, yeah.
So I remember we had you on the podcast before, and
Yeah.
you said your dad was the head coach.
Yeah.
You're the OC?
A DC.
The DC.
He's
Brother
the
was
OC, yeah.
You know, they always say don't work with family. Keep family and business separate. And you guys are like, no.
We
do it all.
We're going to dominate one high school. So you've been doing that for 7 years now, is that right?
Yeah, so we've been going for about 7 years. I think we're going on our 8th year now.
Yep.
Yeah. So, no, it's been good. I always tell the story, like, in the beginning it's been a little bit rocky in a sense of, like, because you learn how to gel, but the last couple of years have been really good in the sense of, like, you handle the offense, you handle the defense, my father will handle the head coaching responsibilities, and he's really good in the sense of lets us do our own thing and isn't too much, on our butt about, like, you have to do this, you have to do this. Right. So, and then the last couple of years we've been pretty good in that sense, just being able to do our own thing. So,
So, ultimate question then, when Dad retires, who's the heir to the throne?
Oh, goodness. I don't know.
I thought about that too. I've thought about that.
I have no ambition.
It's supposed to go to the oldest brother.
It's supposed to, yeah.
We got to get our oldest one
I'll say
back
we do
in.
have an older brother, so maybe he can step in and take it. I have honestly no interest in being a head coach, so. I mean, you've been through the game of being a head coach. Yeah.
1 year and suck you back
and then you're back into it. So I'm too loved with the X and O's to like jump into head coach.
I'd say too, because we're talking off air a little bit. You coach DBs for him.
Right.
You coach anything on offense.
Yeah, the wide receivers for him.
I think that's the key for a lot of coaches that might be listening here. You don't want that fracture of defense offense. Well, the easiest way to do that is have your coaches coach on both sides of the ball,
right.
even if it's a small part. I think that there's a lot of responsibility
Right,
there,
yeah.
and it really helps.
Well, it's good too because, like, you know how it is when you get a split staff. Like, maybe your defense coordinator is just all about defense, and all he cares about is the defense. Well, it's like I care about my wide receivers, make sure that they're stemming properly, they're stacking properly. They're, especially during practice too. Like, you have the mindset flip wise, where it's not just I'm so offensive minded, now I'm defensive minded. Like everything changes, and the way we run our practices is like 5 to 8 minute periods of just go, go, go. So like you have to change mindset, and you have to be in that mindset of like I'm just not just one way and flipping it from
the
there.
family is good, but I've seen multiple times as a head coach where we win a game and I've got a coordinator mad because they didn't play well. I'm like, buddy, I don't care if we win 56-54 or we win 2-0.
Yeah,
We won the
the
game.
win's a
Goal is
win.
more than they have.
That's it.
Right.
At the end of the
That's the whole
day.
goal.
At the end of the day.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to get off topic there.
No,
but
that's
that was a
that's
good
what these are
point.
for, right?
Yeah.
So y'all talked about training each other's kids on opposite sides of the ball. So that's
Yeah.
good. It's kind of what we're here to talk about today. Is we want to talk development of your skill players on offense. So we've talked about developing O-line before, I think, or maybe we recorded it and it hasn't come out yet. I don't remember. They're all starting to run together, but we've not really talked about just taking all your skinny kids and making them better. And so we want to kind of progress this today. We want to talk general, just what are all of my kids doing? Maybe some drills you like, or a program you put them through, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of go through some different positions individually.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we'll just open it right up. Like, when you're working your kids in spring, summer, I guess into the season, and they're all together, very general, making everybody better at the skill kid. What do those drills look like for you?
Yeah,
guys?
I'll kick this off and
Yeah,
I'll
go
throw it
ahead.
over to you. So Massachusetts is a little bit different, right? Because we don't get spring ball. So really in summer we really get like
We get nothing.
we don't get much either. So it's like that tail end of doing 7-on-7 passing stuff is really when we get our time to do it. But between that, but I think the biggest thing for us is like how we practice. I think you got to practice fast, and this is something I got from Bob Chesney, who's now at James Madison University, was at Holy Cross. Just the speed and tempo of how you practice everything, because it forces coaches to be organized. If you're practicing 25-minute blocks, you can kind of take your time, you can kind of relax a little bit. So I found, at least for us, that helps us drill-wise is to move as fast as possible, because it keeps your coaches organized and it keeps the kids engaged, because we live in the TikTok world where everything's so quick and so needs to be now. So I think for me, I'm sure you'll jump on it afterwards, but like for me, it's like the speed of how we've amplified everything has helped us out, at least structure-wise, for coaches pre-practice to be able to get to everything during practice.
Yeah, especially just like switching offense to defense. So that's a big thing we do. We don't just do offense for the first hour, defense for the second hour. We have a lot of guys playing both ways.
Yeah.
So it's like offensive Indy 5 minutes, defensive Indy 5 minutes, defensive 7-on-7, O team. Like we're mixing it in that way, like a game where you have to switch offense, defense, offense, defense.
Right.
So switching in that way, and then also just our off-season training too. We switched it up. Who's the URI strength coach?
Coach Scott Leach.
Coach Scott Leach. Got a lot of good stuff from him this offseason. A lot of just power work. Like everything we have to do is fast. So just tempo-wise, fast. Everything in the weight room, fast. So anytime we're moving a weight, it has to be as fast as you possibly can. So that's one thing we adapted this offseason too, and it paid dividends. I think this is probably the strongest we've ever been in the offseason, just because how fast we moved everything and how fast we move our tempo in practice. Tempo we move in our offseason program too. I think everything we do just now has so much speed, is so quick with so fast moving. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely one of the main things.
I'll
this
add on to that
offseason
too, because I want to give Scott Leach a shout too.
Yeah.
He's the strength coach at URI, and he's got a it's not a course, but it's a
course,
it's a
yeah,
course
it's a course.
technically out there where everything we do tackling wise. I know I'm kind of flipping gears here, just offense, defensively, but like
Making kids better.
yeah. Like, this is something, I know we talked about this a lot, like making sure that the situation is as close to the game as it possibly can be. So a lot of stuff that we do in the off season is we're doing conditioning drills, but they're based off of angle tackling, and we're just tagging the hip off, right? So whether it be going around 2 cones, whether it be a 3-man vice drill, whatever it is, but the kids are running full speed, but they're competing at full speed. And then they're trying to build that skill of taking the angle to tackling at full speed too. So, I think the first time a lot of kids see a tackle is beginning of August when you put the pads on, right? So like, and then they're trying to judge an angle that time. So it's like, here we get them built in 3-4 months before the season to angle tackle. And then by the time the season's ready, like I think our missed tackles were down 60% this year. or up 6%. I don't know what the proper use of that.
Probably
but
down.
But like for us, like looking at that metric, being like, okay, what was the driving factor? And I think doing all that preseason and then guiding it into the season was huge for us. Yeah. So I recommend, if anyone here listening, like go talk to Scott and see the things he has, because it's awesome, and we're going to replicate it again this offseason and do it more. So
especially the contact prep stuff too. Your body doesn't get hit for 8 months, right? And then all of a sudden now you go in August, your body's destroyed. Yeah. So we had a lot less injuries this year too.
Yeah. You did like a full contact prep.
Contact prep, usually like mostly at least 1 to 2 days in the summer, something contact prep just to prep your body. Yeah, so just it worked out. I think we only had like one soft tissue injury all year, and then just big injury wise, like just
kid broke his collarbone.
Broke the collarbone. That's really it. Yeah. Everyone else stayed healthy. So
big things on that. Just a couple things I picked up. So one, staying organized. Chris, you kind of hit that.
Yeah.
Danny, you kind of hit that. You got to know what you're doing. You can't move fast if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
So being organized is big. And you kind of hit it right there at the beginning. I thought you talked about scheme specific. So defensively, I don't know if it has to be as scheme specific as tackling, and there are certain skills you have to have.
Right.
It just is what it is.
Right.
When you move over to the offensive side of the ball, I think you can be very scheme specific in your drills, like what you're trying to accomplish. I know we're doing skill guys today, but if you do O-line or skill or whatever it is, offenses are a little different.
Right.
So what drills actually show up in the game? You mentioned that on tackle. What drill shows up in the game? So like we're about to talk skill. If you're running veer, you probably don't need your quarterback throwing the ball a whole lot during individual time. If you're going to run air raid, that's probably what you need to work on most of your individual time.
Right.
And that sounds common, but like this year we had like 3 pass plays in our offense. 3 plays. There are a lot of tags off it, but that's what we worked. So we worked individual receiver. We worked those routes because that's all we were going to throw. And then there were certain kids we never worked a go route with, because guess what?
They ain't catching a go.
So I think as we kind of move towards skill stuff, the stuff you guys mentioned is be organized, be efficient with your time, and then make sure you're being scheme specific with what you're doing.
Right. Well, can I ask you a question? So when you talk about like the kid never catching a go route, so like is that something that you're going week to week with like here's how we're going to script these receivers running these routes during these periods, or is that something you're going into the season with being like these positions are never going to run this route, so we're never going to the season?
Yeah. You think about like, here's the deal. Y'all are in high school. You coach high school too. Let's say you have 10 receivers. We'll just pick that as a random number. You got 10 receivers, and 4 of them run a 4.6 or under. Those guys are probably going to have to run the full route tree.
Right.
Then you got a kid who's going to be a 4.8 out there, and hey, you're going to help us at some point. You can run curl routes. He's a good blocker. He's a good whatever. We're going to work the routes he runs. And so one of the ways we do that is when we're doing like that 5-minute block where the quarterback's throwing routes, is it's very specific. You run this route, you run this route, you run this route.
Gotcha.
The quarterback's throwing all the routes that he might throw, but the receivers are running the routes they're going to run in the game.
Right.
Because for us, you got to think we only throw the ball maybe 10, 15 times a game.
Right.
So for us, we kind of know when we're throwing that, what route we're throwing, who's getting it.
Right.
So this receiver, hey, this guy, you may need to run all 3 of these routes. And then I've been a big feed the cats guy. I'm curious to see what you guys think of that. But so anytime we do things, they're full speed.
Right.
And so we can't run 15 go routes and expect that to be full speed.
Right.
But we want a fast practice. So how do we kind of modify that?
Yep. Yeah.
So you talked about practice tempo. Coming up, I grew up in exactly what you said, that block period. I remember even my first job was a DC job, but my second DC job, when I did an install, the coach was like, cool, you've got 35 minutes or whatever, right? That's defensive time. Okay, that's fine. And when I tried to break it down, he's like, no, the coaches they'll figure out what they want to do in Indy. You're just the defensive coordinator. I'm like, okay, this is very weird. And now this year, I got to go up and play with the big dogs at Wasso, and it's like 5-minute period, 23 5-minute periods, not 22, not 25, 23 5-minute periods, and then however that fits into whatever the scheduling is. And many times just being quick. Joe's real big in the 90-minute practice plan, right? That's his goal as a head coach when he was head coaching. And he talked about how hard it is. Like coaches can't trim the fat enough to fit into a 90-minute practice plan, but kids love it. And it oddly enough fits right back into like that feed the cats mentality of get the work done and go home and go to bed, right? Like quit burning time on the field. So I got to see kind of that again this year. Was like, we're in the middle of a drill and the whistle blows. Like, sorry guys, you 3 or 4 that didn't get to go, you just didn't get to go.
Yeah, right.
Either the guy in front of you's got to be better tomorrow, or y'all got to work faster, whatever it is.
Right.
Time's out.
And
so
that,
let's go.
that
we're
happens.
going to the next drill.
Yeah,
right?
that happens. And it's like, it's usually the younger kids that suffer a little bit. And I'll tell the kids, like, hey, I'll get you a couple reps after practice. Like, I want to make sure I get those kids after practice, but at the same time, it's like, I need to be a little bit more better organized to make sure like the pace of the drill is moving faster. That way I can get those kids. But like you said, if you got 10, 11, 12 receivers in a drill, the younger guys may not get a rep or two, and the older guys will get more reps. And it stinks, and it's obviously on the coach to be a little bit more better organized. But at the same time, it's like the kids do enjoy it more. I'm glad you said that, because it's like, you ask the kids, what do you think? Like, we always have our postseason meetings, and we ask the kids, what do you think? Oh, the pace of practice is awesome, because it goes by like that.
Yeah.
And again, go home. Don't hang around here. Don't go home.
Yeah. I had another point, forgot it, so that's okay. So moving on, working just drills. Oh, I know what I was going to say. You know, I picked up on this year in the NFL that one of the quarterbacks was struggling. I don't remember who it was, and I think it was the 49ers.
Probably Tua.
Sorry, whoever the head coach was, he's basically like, I'm not here to develop a quarterback. I'm not here to coach a quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not teaching him how to be a quarterback in the middle of an NFL season. Right? That's off season. That's him with his personal. Oh, that's what it was. It was somebody talking about having an outside source coming in and training a quarterback. He's like, that's fine. That's what he's supposed to do. He's a professional ball player. Go pay for a developer, right, to help you get better. And it kind of made me think, is that where we should be in high school? Is like, I have 2 days of full practice, maybe 3, to get you ready to beat that team. So it needs to be pretty schematic. At what point do we need to move those skills and drills to the spring and summer? And that way, when we get into fall ball, guys, we're just learning how to beat the other team. I don't have to get your mechanics back. Right. So I kind of wonder, do y'all have any thoughts on that?
Interesting.
I mean, that's kind of, it's tough for us too. We don't have spring ball, so like we don't get to develop these skills and drills in the off season. We have to develop them in August and September, so it kind of puts us behind the 8 ball a little bit. But yeah, I like that, just to get all the skills, get everything down, all the fundamentals down throughout the summer and throughout the spring. And then really you're just focusing on game plan specifics, scheme specifics, and it's going to make that a lot easier for you guys. So, I mean, I like that.
Y'all do have 7-on-7, right?
We have 7-on-7,
so that's, for your skill guys, I mean, that's where I would think that the majority of our development as skill kids are coming in at 7-on-7.
Yeah.
Yes, the field is going to look different. The routes can't be as long, right? You're not. I went this past year and watched our quarterback, our defense is defending a group that has 5 seconds to throw the ball or whatever, right? And the kid runs a cross all the way from the other side and cuts back a little bit. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But still, they're getting a ton of fundamental development if you coach it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're like, no, everybody run deep outs and I'm gonna hit the pipe up the middle every time to win the game, then you're just hurting yourself. So.
Right. There's 2 ways to do it too. There's always that defensive coordinator that runs 2-man the entire time and doesn't play any of the defense he's running during the year. So if you want to win the 7-on-7, if you want to develop players in the 7-on-7, that's really 2 different stories that you kind of approach with. So. But yeah, we always like to go just run. I like to see what works. So if I'm putting in some new concepts, let's run them in 7-on-7, see if the quarterback's comfortable with it, see if it adapts to the coverage that we're seeing. And then from there, if we like it, we'll put it in for the spring or for the fall. And then if we don't like it, then all right, let's find something else that works. So it's really like our test ground is the 7-on-7.
I got 2 points real quick on 7-on-7. One's just a funny story. So one of my first years there, 7-on-7 was big, and we're trying to prove that didn't really matter.
Right.
So we got a runner-up trophy that I hung above the urinal. So I said that's about how much that thing's worth, because we're trying to develop the skills.
Right.
You know what you're saying. Second thing is, go back to Chris's first point, organization. So you talk about organization in a practice, well, then you got to back up big picture. So we phase our season, and everybody's different. Y'all don't get them till August. It's a Wild West in Arkansas. I get them whenever I want them.
Right.
But basically, we have a preseason, which I run that through our non-conference schedule. So we have 3 non-conference games. It gets us into about mid-September. So that's we're going to be doing a lot more fundamentals and a lot more drills, and I'm not as concerned about scheme.
Right.
Scheme matters, but we got to get them where they can tackle and not fumble and catch ball. Then as we move towards conference, our practice does shift. We have less time to do fundamental drills. It's not that we don't do them, just less time.
Right.
And then as you get towards the end of the season on those you have to win, our practice shrinks again, but it goes almost 100% into scheme.
Right.
At that point, you're trying to keep them healthy and make sure they know what to do on Friday night.
Right.
And so I think goes back to that organizational aspect.
I like that, the phases of the season. That's really good.
And when
I'll be taking that down.
if you know you're going to be pretty good, if you've established a program, okay, we know where we think we realistically can get, then you need to section off your season that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you guys, like in your area, do you have people that are developing like quarterback coaches, wide receiver coaches? Like, do you have people outside of your team that are like grabbing some of your kids to, I guess, going back to the whole like fundamental aspect? Because like if you don't have a lot of time to develop those kids, like are there people that are paid, obviously, outside of your program that are?
We don't have a ton because we're in kind of a rural area,
Yeah.
but I know that it's blowing up in like more urban areas like Little Rock and kind of big cities. I imagine where you guys are. That's
There's a
big.
couple QB trainers that do a pretty good job developing quarterbacks,
Nice.
but I think just going back to the time aspect of it, it's like if you don't have the funds to go to that quarterback, and like you have weeks to to train a kid an entire throwing motion, which is just not happening. But it goes back to your point of like him throwing certain route concepts and being able to put the ball where it needs to be put. But a lot of kids, if you have ugly mechanics or don't have the proper way to get the ball to that receiver, then
We had a quarterback this year
out of
who
luck.
threw from about his hip. He'd played DB his entire life, and so you kind of get into where you're a senior. How much peeing into the wind am I going to do?
Exactly.
Trying to teach you how to throw here. Instead, let's just design our offense around what you do throw well, which is out of the pocket, kind of off-schedule throws, and so I think a lot of times, I know we're going to talk about working drills with kids here, but I think you look at when you look at I think a lot of times it's adapting to what that kid can do, and so maybe don't fight.
Right, but you're a good coach saying that, though. I feel like there's a lot of coaches out there like, we do this and we're going to do this no matter what. So we're throwing the ball 50 times a game and you got to adjust. But if a kid can't, then it's like you have to
adjust.
The
thing about the NFL teams is if the quarterback gets drafted by them, their career's over.
Pretty much,
That's the
yeah.
coaches.
Yep.
That's the coaches. You look at like guys like, and I know my Dolphins lost, so I'm mad, but you look at how McDaniel used to his strengths. You look at how Lamar Jackson is thriving under Harbaugh, but no one else wanted to trade for him.
Right. Wide receiver. He was a wide receiver.
Because they weren't willing to adjust to him.
Right.
I think that's the same thing with all skilled kids. Like, you got to find what they do well. We can't ignore their deficiencies, but let's harp on what they do well. Let's show that off. You got a running back who's extremely athletic out of the backfield, but he's not a great between the tackle guy. Well, let's get him in space. And so, as we kind of work towards, I don't know if we're going to, I think we'll have time to kind of move over towards like developing skill positions.
Right.
Let's start. You want to start with quarterbacks on that?
Sure.
So we're kind of on that topic. So you get a quarterback. You guys get a quarterback, transfers in. You guys have however much time you have to get him ready. What drills are you running with him? How are you assessing him? How are you assessing if your drills are working?
Yeah, quarterback-wise, a lot of pretty much everything we do is from the ground up, right? So I'm always assessing feet first, making sure those are right. If that's off, then the rest of the mechanics are going to be off. So drill-wise, we do a lot of mesh point with the running back. So we always make sure that mesh point is fluid, just because we are mainly a read option team. So it has to be one of the main foundations of our offense is the mesh point. So we're repping that every single day with the running backs. Quarterback-wise, just mainly a lot of base footwork stuff. So making sure you have a wide base the entire time. Just making sure you're balanced. So drill-wise, I'm not a quarterback coach. So I'm putting that off to the other quarterback coach that we have, Derek.
Yeah, we have a really good quarterback coach.
Yeah, he does a great job. But a lot of stuff with him is just like release stuff, making sure it's like quick release to the wide receivers, just because we do a lot of like gift RPO stuff, so bubbles, now routes, stuff like that. But drill-wise,
but I'll jump in. But a lot of drills that we do is quarterbacks with the running backs, quarterbacks with the receivers, quarterbacks with the group work, the individual time that we do have, we probably have like one or two indie periods where we're developing that individual skill, and we do a lot of pre-practice stuff and post-practice stuff. And that's the other thing too. Like when we structure drill-wise, like mechanically, we use that time in pre-practice to make sure mechanically we're warmed up, ready to go. So that way, when we do get to practice, we're not working on a base W drill with the quarterback where you're just sliding your feet in and out. It's like that stuff should be done pre-practice, in our opinion at least. That stuff should be done pre-practice, so when we can get to practice, that 5-minute block can be, like you said, mesh point, can be thrown with the receivers, can be doing different things in that aspect. So.
And that really goes back to kind of philosophy I've developed while working with the greats, right? The guys that I get to work with all the time.
your practice better look like football. Right? It needs to look like the game you're going to go play. So I go back to the story. Peyton Manning, he was talking about one game, like after 17 years in his career or whatever, however long he played, like last season, he finally, he's sitting in the pocket, a guy falls down and he jumps a D lineman and then throws the ball.
Right.
He's like, I have worked that for 30 some odd years through high school and college and the NFL of having to step over a bag as I throw. And I was like, well, how stupid is it that you wasted 30 years of drill time to step over a bag to do it once in like one of the longest careers ever?
Right. And could that have been more time to do something else?
Right. Does your practice look like football? And he's obviously not hurt him at all. Just if I can have my kid step over a bag and he's Peyton Manning, let's go. I'll go back over there all day. But so does your practice look like football? Does your drill look like football? Or are you just back there sliding your feet through bags all day?
No, you're gonna make it realistic too. It's like if you want to like resemble a pocket, like give guys attacking the quarterback, make the reads realistic. You'll never see our guys jumping over trap pads, anything like that. So, but like more realistic drills where if you're gonna work on pocket presence, make it as chaotic as possible, just so that when you get to the game, it's not as chaotic, it's not as crazy, just because you've done it all week. So,
well, a lot of times what we see is we go back and we look at these quarterback coaches. Well, here's the deal. And some of those guys are great. I'm not downing a guy who works with quarterbacks, but a lot of times they're working with a guy in May, and they have him for 3 hours. Or you go watch a college coach who works with a guy, or an NFL coach, and that's where we all go watch our drills. Well, they have these guys for an hour and a half. I think if I had them for an hour and a half,
they got to kill time.
You got to do something,
right?
And so, and as a high school coach, we look at that and we think that's what needs to be done. I think I would much rather work on mesh point with a running back if that's what we're running. So be careful as you guys are doing these drills. One, make sure they're on point. Two, I've never been a fan of doing any drill with a bag or something that doesn't exist on the football field with any position player. Even our linemen, I'm not just a giant fan of using sleds because we don't block sleds. So how can we simulate that drill on a person? And so that point I think is big. And unfortunately, I know Chris is the Twitter guru here. But follow his Twitter.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because I look back at I don't know if we've talked about this off camera, but I look back 3-4 years ago of drills I used to post. I'm just I cringe. I'm just why did I post? So I've just been a lot more conscious of things I post now. Just to your point of does this translate? Is this just something that looks good but doesn't actually? And I think there's so much information shared out there. It's just so tough to weed out what's good, what's not good.
What's good for you?
What's good for you? Right. It's not me to say this is a bad drill or a good drill, but it's how does it translate to football? That's the end all be all. Is how's this gonna make my
Dominic Franks over at Tulsa? He's become a pretty good friend of mine for the last couple of years. He actually sent me drill tape and game tape from this past season with his safety, and it's he actually started under a little canopy, right? So he had his head down, working a back pedal drive. Then he sends me the game tape where the guy starts in his back and he comes down and makes a tackle, right? And then another one, it's kind of the same thing, going across the field to get into a defender like a post, right? Yeah. And then he's got a kid that's doing the exact same footwork and everything, and he takes a pick, right? And gets a pick and
love that.
I don't know if he went to the house or whatever. Yeah. But it's if you can't find that in your game tape, you might be running the wrong drills. Right. What does football look like? Right. We'll go back to what we were talking about earlier. Coach asked about analyzing or kind of grading your quarterback, see if your drills are working. So how are you doing that? Because that's something, I'm not a quarterback coach either, but at least you're an OC and you're hey, that kid's making the throws or he isn't. So what are you doing to analyze how well or grade that player?
So first off, just one statistics, right? If he's not throwing as many picks, if he's keeping control of the ball, we're seeing, okay, he's working this pocket presence drill, he's not getting sacked, he's not getting hit. So just really the outcome of the situation too. So he's not getting sacked, he's making the right decisions. Well, this drill is good because now we're seeing him step up in the pocket, we're seeing him evade left, evade right. So really just how the outcome comes through the game. Yeah. So if we see that this drill is seeing is working in the game, we'll continue with the drill. We met with Dante Scarnecchia this offseason, and he said if you don't see drills in the game, you're doing the wrong drills. Yeah. So essentially just what you said, right? So if we're not seeing that exact type of movement or that exact situation in the game, we're not going to do that drill.
Yeah, I'll add on one more thing too. Just going back to drills, one thing one of the drills I love that he does at least is that pocket presence drill. We have our 5 linemen, we have the rush that we're going to see, whether it be a 5-man pressure or a 6-man pressure. and the quarterback sits in that pocket looking downfield at a coach giving numbers, whatever it is. But like, again, he has to slide the pocket. We're telling our D lineman, go try to sack him. So it's like full contact, full everything. Obviously, we're not going to hit the quarterback when we get to him. But like, I think a lot of coaches practice blitz pickup, but you don't practice it in a live, chaotic environment. So now, like, when our quarterback faces a blitz, he's standing there no problem and delivering the ball where he needs to. But I think that 8 to 10 minutes that we do of just like rapid fire, get set, run the blitz, get your eyes downfield, okay, do it again, over and over again. I think that's been huge. And the other thing too is film your practice. I think there's so many coaches or film your drills, film your drills. It's like so many coaches just like, okay, practice is over, we'll just figure it out the next day. And like we film every little thing we possibly can. Film iPads, iPhone, everything you possibly
take
can
an injured
film.
kid, have him hold the camera. That's really what we do.
Filming a drill is going to help a kid a ton.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing you can do to help with drills is just simple cues. Like, what's the coaching point, and the kids can repeat back to you what we're trying to get out of the drill.
Right.
Like, what is our goal here? What is our, if you're doing pocket presence, it might be like blitz off the edge, we want to step up.
Right.
Blitz in the middle, we want to shuffle out. But, so he understands the concept. So even if you couldn't simulate it exact in the drill, he's kind of picked up on the, okay, I'm getting pressure from the outside, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Or it could be like I roll out of the pocket, we're teaching how to run a scramble drill.
Right.
And what are the concepts and the main coaching cues for those kids? And so for like our receivers, we talk about like, how we want our hands to be on certain balls. When we want to throw our hands up. And so, of course, we're going to try to make a drill that simulates that, but at some point, you're going to get a unique situation in the game.
Right.
Have they learned kind of the general concept? I hate it. You walk by a drill thing and your kids don't really know why you're running the drill.
Right.
You as a coach know it, but do your kids really know why we're doing this?
Right.
And I
The
think-
why.
Yeah, I think that's
always the why.
a lot of times we're in a rush, like we are rushing. We're trying to be, but have we taken the time up front to explain the purpose of the drill? And I think that even if you got to kill 30 seconds, make sure every kid knows what we're doing, then you go.
Yep.
I've gotten a lot more into like pre-practice, not only walking drills or whatever, but upstairs, be on a whiteboard, like, hey, look, this is the stinking drill you're going to do today, and here's why. And maybe you do put a clip up and be like, this linebacker is really good at disguising his blitzes, so this week we're going to pick whatever it is. But
We do Mondays. So Monday, I'm the head coach. I get in front of the team, and win, lose, or draw, we find the bad. That's our goal. And your mom can tell you the good. My gosh, find the bad. so what we're going to do, guys, is the first thing we walk out on the field. So you're going to meet the position coaches. We're going to watch film. We're going to do all that stuff. We're going to lift usually. So the first drills we do are the drills we thought you sucked at the worst in the game by your position coach. That's what he thought you were the worst at. It's 5 minutes, and kind of a rinse and get it out and move on. I think you grab their attention a lot in those drills. Okay, we recognize we didn't coach you really well in this drill. We struggled at this part of this drill. Here's what your coach thought was the most important drill, and then they literally only get 5 minutes at Indy on Mondays. My coach don't like it a lot, but I think it proves the point to the kids of here's what we're doing, here's what we're going to try to move forward.
I actually stole that. It's the first thing in my practice schedule now. It's a fix-it period.
Nice.
So.
I like that.
So if we move over to running backs now, kind of the same thing. What drills have you found work for them in season? And then the same thing, how do you evaluate what your running back's doing if your skills or drills are working?
Yeah, so a lot of running back stuff is going to be more reaction based. So a lot of cuts. So we work on jump cuts, speed cuts, and then one thing we call pressure cuts. So when you're getting body on body here, trying to protect the football, trying to make sure you're not just going through every single pressure. You can also go with pressure sometimes, evade, and then continue upfield. So those footwork is going to be huge for us. Ball security every single day as well. Really the two main things with running back is ball security and footwork, essentially, right? So and then also we also are working, like we said, mesh point with the quarterback, and then pass protection too. We rushed for double our rushing yards from last year to this year, and that went just based on our running back's ability, right? You obviously have to have a good running back for them to rush a good amount of yards. So, but a lot of ball security stuff, and with that, we'd like to do just the stubble bomb, those types of drills where you're trying to get in just different postures. So I'm falling down, hand out, that ball comes away, that's when it gets punched out the most, right? It's when you're not looking, it's when you're not paying attention. So really just focusing on getting your hands here, getting down, getting yourself in awkward positions just to make sure you're maintaining the ball security the entire time. So one of the big focuses, that's an everyday drill that everyone usually does, so Other drills? I mean,
So when you're doing those, you're putting like, you talk about cuts, but is that cutting on air? You put a read man out, you're giving them a read?
Giving them a read,
Something,
yeah.
Making a
always,
game like.
I always have a visual. So like we'll do the 3 trap pads. You're attacking downhill, one linebacker steps in this gap, you get a jump cut to the other one, always find the open gap, right? But there's always some sort of visual there just so you can take you're not just, I always hate just not having a visual for running backs, right? Their main job is to keep their eyes up, work on their vision too, but then also you have to have something in your drills to make sure, hey, I have a visual here, I'm seeing this linebacker step this A gap, I got a jump cut here, work my basic inside zone read, work my counter reads where I'm seeing that end kick out, I'm staying tight to that tackle going through. So we also have a pull period with our linemen as well with our running backs just to get used to all the gap scheme stuff, right? We're a big counter, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we're a big counter and power team. So we always like to see, we're always staying tight to that tackle. So earlier on in the season, we weren't doing a good job of staying tight to the tackle on the down block. So we were staying too wide on the puller. They were wrong arming it, they were getting off the kick and then being able to make a play. So we developed a pull period where now we're staying tight to this tackle. You're only looking at this tackle the entire time. We see that kick in your main job right now. I don't care if it's just simple things on air, but we're going to stay tight to this tackle, get on the tackle, and then we have the linebacker there, make a read off the linebacker. So just simple drills like that where it's realistic to your run scheme as well too.
I love Kenny's, the follow the guard concept, which is what everyone should be doing. But he has them hold the towel sometimes. Like I think those are all hilarious, but it works.
Yeah.
We always called it hogging it, right? You got to hog it, hand on the guard, and let's go, right? Follow him, and you can steer him a little bit, right? And just wait till he makes contact and make a play. So.
Yeah.
We didn't have a running back coach this year, so like we used the skills. That's why I was almost laughing when you were talking. I was going, man, I don't even know if we had a running back coach.
Yeah.
Those are the skills you got to teach, but a lot of times this is kind of going off topic. We would actually, that kid who played running back would go with all the other position coaches. So like we had 2 running backs that could catch. So they had a period where they would go with the receivers coach and work on the routes they were going to work on and catching. The other 2 running backs we were never going to throw the ball to went over with our H-backs and worked on blocking. That's what they were And then there were times we would use like we had a coach that worked with our skilled kids on ball security. You got to work ball security. So he worked with quarterbacks, and we ran with him a lot, and the running backs. And there were times where they'd end up with quarterbacks working mesh point, like you said. But if you're in a small school right here, I think you can probably get away with having a skilled coach if you're smart in how you move those kids. And again, you kind of go back to their skill set. It sound like y'all had kind of an alpha dude. We had like kind of by committee.
Right.
And these 3 guys we throw the ball to, and this guy, you're not getting the throw. So you're going to go work pass pro, blocking, whatever you're going to do.
Coach, did you have anything on running backs?
I think he does a great job with the running backs. I think the biggest thing, like you said, is you got to see a visual key, and you got to react to a moving stimulus. I think a lot of times you see on the internet, it's like everything's reacting to bags, a rolling ball. I think something that's moving in one direction isn't necessarily realistic, and I think that goes back to the defensive drills we talked about earlier with, the tackling drills that we do. Well, the running back's also getting work too because he's reacting to someone trying to tackle him, where if he needs to put his foot in the ground and cut back or try to race him to the sideline, that's building, which I think helped that running back out big time, or any receiver that's catching the football. It's because everything we do is with tennis balls, so like you got to catch a tennis ball because you can't use footballs in the off season, right? Catch a tennis ball and then react to it, right? So if it's a long distance reaction or a short distance, they're always reacting to something. And I think that translates to the open field during the game as well.
When you get into that analyst part or analysis and kind of grading them, I usually look at timing. You talked about footwork early. Footwork can obviously bad and throw off timing, but angles, aiming points. If you're a big zone reading team, a lot of people zoning are going to be like, what is a ghost tight end, or if you have a tight end, great, right, for your outside zone stuff. Inside zone, it's whatever, butt cheek at the center or the guard, wherever you are, but make sure their aiming points are right. Like we had a superior athlete last year at tailback for our freshman team. Kid's probably going to go be D1 somewhere. He's outstanding. Can't play running back to save his life. He's only been a wide receiver his whole life, and he just couldn't. The reads didn't make sense to him. And he got into either like, I want to get to the sideline right now, or I'm going to just buzz my feet because I don't know what to do, right? And so you start looking at the footwork and just timing things. Are they outrunning the guard? Are they, because we all run different schemes, so it's like whatever fits your scheme, right?
But that's also true too. Like if he's seeing like that week, are you seeing an odd front? Are you seeing even front? Are you seeing linebackers that are aggressive to play side runs? The backside linebacker slow to scrape over. Like I think, and this is something that he didn't mention, but this is something he works on. Is like the look we're seeing Friday night is the look we're seeing during practice the entire week. So that way,
fast full linebackers are downhill.
Exactly. So hey, you're going to hit this cutback because this kid's over the top too fast. Like at this point, and I think being able to bring that to the, we talk about seeing Friday night during the week. Well, this is also plays into it during your team period, is being able to see it on running power, counter, inside zone, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Receivers, all we got left, isn't it?
Receivers, that's it. Yep. So what are we doing with receivers, guys? What's your go-to drill?
Man,
Receivers coach.
Look, this is one of those positions. I feel like coaches, when they come in, they learn. Maybe not everyone, but I feel like everyone they start it with the run scheme because it's easy, right? There's like two. It's gap scheme and zone scheme, right? And then you just learn the intricacies. But getting outside to those passing concepts is already kind of difficult because there's a lot of them. It's not like two of them that can work, just get tagged up a bunch. And then you've got four dudes you got to learn how to coach. So I understand, like, the wide receiver side is more difficult to break into, I feel like.
For sure. Yeah. No, and it's something that I've, like, over the past couple of years, you got to be super organized with. So to break it down, a few elements. First thing, stance and start, which is usually pre-practice. Like, we're cleaning that up every single day. Like, is your stance and start relevant, right? And that's a good lean on your front foot, making sure that you're not false step. At least I teach, I don't want the guys to false step. So that's step one. Step two, we get into releases. So the biggest thing is I don't want my guys to see a press corner and be like, oh, I don't know what to do, right? So like, I show them every single type of release, a head-on release, inside release, if he's shuffling out, if he's a hard press, is he aggressive, is he playing off 5 yards, is he off to the inside? Okay, now we got to stem off. So we work stem, we work releases. That's a whole period in itself. And then of course blocking, right? It's like, I don't believe in the whole no block, no rock type thing. Yeah. I think it needs to be built into your culture that, there's this quote that always flows around, which I love, by Brendan Marion. Like, you block for the guys you love. Like, you truly got to love your teammates in order to have effort to block. And our guys do a great job with that too. But I think we built that into our culture. Like, if you're not getting the football, don't walk off the football. Like, run off, make it look like pass, and then stalk him up. But we've also have our RPOs built in our offense where, like, you could get the ball every single play. So, like, if there is, like, you walking off the football, well, the slot receiver could catch a bubble behind you. You don't know it. So, like, you better get your butt off the football and block it up. So, from a drill perspective, though, those are the big three, at least pre-practice. In practice, we do a lot of release work. And then I've developed a few drills where it's just like catch and run. Like, how can we change the angle at a 45 degree, at a 90 degree, 135 deep? I want my guys to see as many footballs as they possibly can, so that way Friday night, like, every angle possible they've already seen. And I think a couple drills that we've developed, and if anyone wants these drills, I'm happy to share them. But, within a 5-minute period that we have for our indie period, like, I'm trying to catch as many footballs as I can. So when we do get into our routes on air period, like, those guys are all cleaned up and crisped up. But if you guys want to dig more into it, you could go into route progression. So we're working breaks at a 45 degree at the top of the route. So if we're running like a 7-yard dig, we're working those last 3 steps on the top of the dig to be able to get out of it. So we will break down the route in that aspect of it. But drill-wise, that's probably where I'm leaning to, is the stance and start, getting off a jam, getting into a route, and then obviously catch and finish. So I try to break it up in that aspect, not just run routes.
I think because there are coaches that do that, right? Yeah. They go out and they run the route tree with every guy every day, and it's like, what about all the other stuff? Or the opposite, which is, sure, we run flex bone or wing T or something, so my guys are just going to block for the entire indie period, right? I have 4 different blocking drills. Cool. Now you're really not developing anyone, right? Just send them with the O-line if that's what
if you're a receiver, you don't want to block. I mean, it just is what it is. Especially well, if you're in like we throw the football a good amount, so like blocking is the last thing on their mind. But I need to brainwash them that blocking is a good thing. Like, you have to get you got to get out there and block, and you got to make sure that you're doing it efficiently. So that's why, like, when we do our drills, like, it's full speed. That's another thing too. Like, if you're doing blocking drills as a receiver, like, you got to do it full speed. We have one where we put a bag behind the wide receiver, and it's just one-on-one. Make it competitive too, so that way loser does 5 push-ups, something stupid like that.
We do a lot of like same kind of stuff you're doing. Then we do group stuff where it's like 3-on-2. The DBs have 2, and we're throwing bubbles. And that's how we work our blocking, because nobody wants to like go one-on-one block. It's hard to get effort. Do a mirror drill or whatever. But if there's actually a ball involved and a screen now you're going to kind of get a little bit of juices flowing on both sides. You know, and of course our offense gets mad because defense is jumping, they're jumping it because they know it's coming.
Right.
And so they've really got to work it. So it's kind of a good drill I'd recommend if you want to do blocking is have a ball involved and a runner involved.
Yeah, and
we do a lot of, we call perimeter drill, and it's just bubbles. But we can bubble it. We'll go to 3-by-1 looks, and how it can go to any of those 3 receivers. So the defense has to stay true. They got to read their keys. The offense, you never know if you're the blocker or going to be the ball carrier. That rep, right?
Yeah.
The
OC stands way behind the defense and tells them who's getting the ball. So,
yeah. But
we work. You're getting 2 dudes that are working and blocking. One guy's a catch and run. Defense has to play, and react true, and it's a lot of work right now, and it just teaches us how to own the sideline, right? Because we want to throw some bubbles too, so it really does fit.
No, to add on to your point, Kenny, like use your hands too. Like so many coaches will just do mirror drills that put the hands behind their back, and then it's just like you're blocking with your hands. Let's learn how to use our hands, and I coined the phrase airplane block, and just when you're working cutoff blocks, just getting your arms out so that way you're not coming back and cracking on a guy. But we practice those types of blocks too, but everything's with our hands. I think there is an element to get your footwork involved where you have a wide base and you're getting your hands fitted up, but a lot of blocks are missed because the hands aren't fitted up properly, and DBs are taught to head fake, chop the arm, and go. Well, let's reverse engineer that. So how can we win the inside, keep the hands in? And then if we are losing the block, what's the parachute ripcord? What's our emergency if we're losing? Okay, we're going to our airplane block to make sure that we can at least cut off the guy that's knifing inside. So that way we're not getting beat cross face and then a 1-yard gain, which should be something ripped around the corner for a 20-yard gain, is all because of one block missed because the guy didn't have his hands fitted up properly. So.
And I think, a lot of the running back drills you can do here too, depending on how much you use your receivers. We had a kid that kind of did a little bit of both for us, but he had a real bad fumble problem early. So he went to the running backs coaches during ball security drills.
Right.
So that's just kind of, those guys are going to have the ball in their hands, and I think that's kind of an underrated aspect if they're struggling. You work catches, you work releases, and all of a sudden that guy's, you're going to throw 5 screens to him. He's kind of your number 2 running back.
Yeah.
So the same drills he was running were as a react, like he talked about reacting. Those are things you need to do. And again, it needs to mirror your offense. If you're listening to this podcast and you run a flex bone, probably don't need to run 15 routes and different concepts. Probably do need to teach them more blocking drills. If you're going to throw it, it needs to match what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. Catch and tuck. Catch and tuck. Catch and tuck. Not catch and put the ball out. Catch and tuck.
Guys, I'm a huge fan of both these guys. So, Coach, I think one of the last things we usually do is let you guys talk about, guys that have heard this and they want to go find more. I know y'all both have a ton of stuff out there. Where do they go?
Yeah, first off, victorysports.com is the website. We have a ton of resources. We're actually redoing everything as far as organizationally on there. So hopefully by the time you hear this, the website's good to go. And then, of course, find us on YouTube, TikTok, every social media, Twitter, at Victory Sports, VIQTORY sports.com. So.
Sweet. If somebody wanted to reach out to you personally today, email, DM,
Twitter probably.
Twitter at Chris Victory is my personal Twitter.
And then at Coach Haddad Jr., HADDAD.
Sweet.
Yep.
Well, guys, we appreciate it, man. Appreciate you wasting 45 minutes of your life talking ball.
Never waste. It's awesome.
Appreciate you getting us on.
On to the next one, I guess.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.